Who really blew the secret behind Lady Featherington's identity? And what mistakes did the Bridgerton crew miss? Most importantly, what hints did the show drop about the events of Season 2? What's the buzz? The characters never mention it in their conversations, but it's clear that bees are a major part of the Bridgerton story. For one thing, the series opens with a bee buzzing in front of the camera, and it ends with one landing on Daphne's windowsill. Not to mention, we see bees incorporated in the Bridgerton clothing, whether it's Anthony's collar or Eloise's brooch. But what do these references mean? Well, bees are hard workers, and the hive is led by a female. In this case, that could be a reference to the hardworking Bridgerton siblings, all buzzing around their mother, the queen bee, and the one who's really running the household. We also see a bee buzzing around right after Daphne gives birth. Could this maybe be a playful nod to the birds and the bees? But that's not all. Anyone who's read the books knows there's another side of the story, one that hints at where next season will take us. While the show tells us that Mr. Bridgerton died before the series began, it's never explained how he passed. But readers of the books know that he actually died from a bee sting. This is major, because his passing had a huge impact on Anthony, and it gave the poor Viscount a terrible fear of bees. All of this is a big hint as to next season's events, because we're pretty sure that it will focus on Anthony's search for love, the Featherington secret symbol. The Bridgertons aren't the only ones with a fondness for insects. Their new money neighbors, the Featheringtons, are often adorned with butterflies. For example, Penelope rocks a butterfly-embellished ball gown, and the grand staircase in their home is covered in over 600 metal butterflies. But what do they mean? Well, butterflies are often symbols of transformation and rebirth. Since the Featheringtons are new money, they're reinventing themselves, just like caterpillars that are being reborn as beautiful butterflies. Butterflies are also beautiful, colorful, and showy, all characteristics the Featheringtons try to recreate in their iconic outfits. A gilded cage. But that's not all. The show gives us the birds and the bees. The show uses birds to make a big statement about the role of women in the Regency era. While walking with Penelope, Eloise remarks that all the women with feathers in their hair look like birds, performing a mating ritual. And she's right. At a ball, we see peacocks in cages representing those very mating rituals that Eloise called out. The show also features bird cages in the background, highlighting the idea that these women are caged by society. Color theory. The show's crew didn't just use symbols to get their ideas across. They also relied heavily on color. The Bridgertons are always in refined, cool tones of silver, green, and blue. These pastel hues are meant to show them as refined and untarnished. The Featheringtons are a total contrast, rocking bright neon colors that we wish we had the confidence to wear. The colors are meant to show that they don't quite fit in this posh world. They're showing their ignorance and trying way too hard. Like butterflies, these ladies want to be seen. Genevieve even calls out their unpopular taste when she throws some serious shade at the ladies. While handing them their brightly colored clothing, she sarcastically mentions that she can't imagine why the fabric hasn't been bought yet. Then there's the romantic rogue, Simon. His character is dark and brooding, and so are the colors he wears. And when he does wear something other than black, it's his family colors of red and gold. In an adorable twist, after they get married, Daphne starts to wear more purple, showing the mixing of their colors in their households as they form their own family. Her mother and Lady Danbury even get in on it. More than just jewelry. We know there's no way you missed the characters' gorgeous jewels, but did you pick up on the secret messages they were sending? Daphne's necklace is a prime example. Prince Frederick gifted her a stunning diamond necklace, and at first she accepted it, and him. But when she realizes that she can't accept his proposal, she tears the necklace off, showing the audience that it wasn't a good fit. Another character who let his jewelry do the talking? Daphne's husband, the Duke of Hastings himself. We know his mother died in childbirth, so Simon never got to know her, but he's always wearing her brooch, using it as a way to keep her close to him. Characters tell all. Everyone in Bridgerton has secrets, but if you listen carefully, you might realize that the characters themselves often hint at what's come. Remember when Queen Charlotte accused her secretary Brimsley of being a gossip? Well, a few episodes later, he's the one who spills the tea about their plan to trap Lady Whistledown, and Marina calls dressmaker Genevieve out for her fake French accent. But if you were paying attention, you might have already guessed her secret. That's because when Genevieve talks to her friends like Sienna, she drops the act and speaks with her normal British accent. Scandalous. Where's Whistledown? Season 1 ended with a shocking reveal. Regency gossip girl Lady Whistledown is actually Penelope Featherington. But if you were watching closely, this may not have been much of a surprise. The show was hinting at it from the very beginning. One way the creators did this was in Penelope's wardrobe. Just like a traffic sign, Penelope is always rocking an eye-catching shade of yellow. This was intended to serve as a warning, telling the characters and the audience to slow down and pay attention. And that's not all. When she learned that her character was actually Lady Featherington, Nicola, who plays Penelope, suggested that she appear in the backgrounds of major scenes so that the audience could see her getting the scoop. Don't believe us? Go back to Daphne and Simon's first meeting and you'll see her lurking in the background. Checkmate. We know Netflix had another period piece hit with Queen's Gambit, but there was some chess in Bridgerton as well. When Daphne and Violet hatched a plan to get out of a marriage with Mr. Brimsley, they decided to play a game of their own. They invited Mrs. Brimsley to tea to stall her while they dug up some dirt on her unsavory son. If you look in the background of that scene, you'll notice a chessboard, a nod to the strategy behind the tea. There's also a chessboard motif on the floors during some of the show's biggest moments. When Daphne and Simon get married, they're standing on a black and white checkerboard floor, and at the end of the show, when they reunite, the same black and white flooring is present. This emphasizes the importance of those moments, because their reunion is a return to the vows they made at their wedding, and the chessboard pattern could be an indication of their partnership as a king and queen. Well, at least a duke and duchess. Suffering in silence. We know that women had to keep their emotions close to the chest, but Daphne takes it to a whole other level. In the first episode, we see poor Prudence Featherington getting squeezed into a corset. She complains about how tightly it fits, and later we see her pass out in front of the queen. Talk about embarrassing. But if you look closely, you'll notice that Daphne is suffering too. While she never complains about her clothing, you can see scars and bruises visible from the corset she wears. When we first meet Daphne, she's polite and soft-spoken, and this is just another way that's showcased. The crew hit the books. Did you notice the historical elements of the show? We sure did. It looks like the Bridgerton team really did their homework because they included some pretty impressive historical details, like how Buckingham Palace was under construction during the events of the show. This might seem strange at first, but it turns out that this actually happened. The palace was being renovated during this era, so the crew made it a part of the show. How cool is that? Bridgerton bloopers. But even though the cast got an A in history, they still missed some tiny details. Did you catch them? You may have spotted yellow traffic lines on the side of the road, which is pretty weird since cars hadn't even been invented yet. Yikes. But we can't be too hard on them, especially since this happens to everyone. Remember Game of Thrones and that infamous coffee cup? Musical secrets. One of the most magical parts of the show had to be the soundtrack. Every song added to the heavy romance of the show, making the scenes really come to life. But did you recognize any of the melodies? You should have, because they're more modern than they might have seemed. The show often incorporated classical covers of modern hits. For example, Simon and Daphne's steamy honeymoon sequence was set to T. Swift's Wildest Dreams, and the first episode included one of Ariana's most iconic bops, Thank You Next. At first, it's hard to recognize the songs, but once you catch on, you'll just love them even more. We always knew Taylor's music was super relatable. Turns out it's just as relevant in the 1800s as it is in the 2000s. Parenting parallels. In Season 1's final scene, it's easy to get caught up in the moment. Daphne and Simon are happily married and finally starting a family of their own. But if you look closely, you might notice some pretty crazy parallels. Remember the sad scene where we saw Simon's birth? If you watch that first, you'll notice that they're shot in almost exactly the same way. For one thing, it's the same room. Same bed, same wallpaper, everything. And we enter the room the same way, following a maid who's coming to help with the birth. But there is one major difference. While Simon's mother was suffering alone, Daphne has Simon there, holding her hand the whole time. All the similarities are intentional because they make it that much more obvious that this time will be different, and Simon has finally found the love he's been chasing all along. What do you think? Did the crew do a good job hiding Easter eggs for Bridgerton fans? We think a rewatch might be in order. But now we want to hear from you. Which moments left you shocked? Did you catch anything we might have missed? Let us know in the comments below.